From a quiet autumn clearing to a snow-covered mountain hideout, John builds a raised A-frame survival shelter by hand, adds a stove, cooks a hot meal, and sleeps inside before wolves begin howling in the dark. Watch the full video, and don't forget to subscribe and follow the channel for more real wilderness builds. A sweeping drone shot reveals the autumn mountain forest. John appears in a quiet clearing, already planning the build. He studies the site beside the trees and old stumps. The camera drops low, framing the raw ground he chose. His packed saw and tarp come off beside a stump. John grabs a long pole and starts preparing the first timber. He trims bark and small branches to clean the log. Close handwork follows as he shapes the pole with care. The first support is refined with short, precise cuts. He saws deeper into another pole to size it properly. More steady sawing turns rough timber into usable parts. John shifts position and keeps the long pole under control. He carries one finished pole toward the building area. Another log is lifted onto the stump for trimming. He hauls a fresh pole over to the future frame. A tarp is spread nearby while the first materials gather. John returns with another beam for the base structure. The camera looks up through the trees above the worksite. Now the first long rails are laid into place. He shoulders a beam and lifts it onto the frame. John drives and adjusts the lower supports to lock them in. Working in darker outerwear, he carries another heavy pole in. He lines the beam up carefully along the side. More long logs go down and the platform starts forming. A front view shows the raised base getting real shape. Snow arrives as John brings in another long pole. A neat stack of prepared logs waits beside the site. He starts laying floor poles tightly across the platform. In the snow, John spreads cover over the upper section. He folds and adjusts the tarp as the weather worsens. A short title card marks the start of day 2. Morning opens on a coldy forest now covered in snow. John bends over a pole and resumes the hard work. Wearing green gloves, he cuts fresh is assembled on top of the box. Inside, he briefly shows a small screen or device to camera. The dark interior waits while he finishes the setup. Outside, the tarp shelter stands ready for a fire. John pauses near camp with a quick snack or small break. He fixes the stove jack panel onto the tarp roof. Both hands press the flashing into position around the opening. He checks the patch from outside to make sure it seals. The stovepipe is lifted and fitted through the roof jack. A final pipe section stands upright above the shelter. John heads back into the foggy woods for more fuel. He drags a long piece of deadwood through the trees. Deeper in the forest, he starts pulling workable timber free. A wide foggy view slows the pace for a moment. Then the saw bites into another fallen log. Back near the shelter, dark ground and tools fill the frame. John chops at branches and frees another piece from the thicket. He drags a long trunk section back toward camp. A heavier pole is hauled up the slope by hand. He cuts the haul into shorter lengths beside a tree. More bucking follows until the pieces are stove-sized. Sitting low on the slope, John keeps sawing through the pile. He works methodically through the last short rounds. A split round is stood upright on the block. John starts splitting billets for the night fire. Another piece breaks cleanly under the axe. The small pile of split wood grows beside the cabin. He finishes the last pieces and leaves the pile tidy. Inside again, John carves fine kindling beside the stove. Thin feather sticks pile up as he prepares to light it. He loads the little stove carefully with tinder and dry sticks. The first flame catches and begins to build. A glowing close-up shows the stove fully alive. Blue evening settles outside the shelter. On-screen text warns that wolves are howling in the valley. John quickly turns back toward the shelter in safety. Inside, he brings in his pack under the lantern glow. He pulls out a hide and starts dressing the sleeping area. The animal hide is spread out as a warm floor layer. Now he turns to food and cooking beside the lit stove. Darkness closes in around the tiny shelter. A pot is set over the fire as dinner begins. John seasons or stirs the food with calm, deliberate motions. Steam rises as the meal starts to come together. Meat simmers on the stove inside the cramped warm shelter. He adds more ingredients and keeps stirring. Sliced peppers drop into the pan to finish the meal. The pan bubbles harder as dinner thickens. Potatoes and vegetables cook while a steak rests on the plate. He checks the food and settles into the warm routine. John plates the meal and starts eating by the stove. The hot dinner fills the shelter with steam and smoke. He leans back with the finished plate, finally resting. After eating, he begins arranging his bed for the night. The orange sleeping bag is spread over the hide and floor. John changes layers and settles closer to the warmth. Lying in the sleeping bag, he reaches toward a kettle on the stove. One last close look holds on the glowing firebox. The cabin darkens, leaving the red stove window as the final warmth. Almost everything fades to black except the fire. The video